good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon, and I hope this finds you well on this fine, cold but sunny day in Ontario and wherever you may be located throughout the world. And I wonder if, like me, you are excited about my favorite day at this time of year, which is the 21st of December, which is the solstice. And after that, 3 days of equal days and nights, and then the days start getting longer again, albeit slowly, but it seems always to me that we've turned a corner. And you can imagine if you are living in a hut somewhere in the middle of a forest, it would be a pretty bleak time of year. And so yes, I can see why it would be a time of some kind of celebration, and of course eating up a lot of the perishable food that might rot over the winter period. Anyway, as you can see, I have moved into my new office. There's still a few things to be done. Of course, it's got to be painted, the drywall has to be finished off and that kind of stuff. But it is a start and a step in the right direction. And thankfully, we've got our wood stove problem sorted out. In the update video, you'll see that it is a big, ugly beast, but boy, does she put out the heat. And what happened with the other wood stove, the wood cook stove. Now, I'm not going to mention the manufacturer's name because, I made a little video of what was going on, and they didn't seem too happy about that, but they did take the stove back and gave me a full refund. For that, in return, I promised to take down the video, because what had happened was we took off the side panels of that wood stove because we were convinced there was a blockage, because an air blockage, because when you open the door, the stove ran just fine. As soon as you closed the door, it started to damp right down, and it was struggling to stay up to temperature, and it was making creosote in the chimney. The company tried to blame the chimney setup, and I know that there are a couple of 45s in there, but the stove that I have in there right now, we're not having any problem with whatsoever, staying in the combustion zone and the fire operating as it should do. And so what we found is that even though that there is a 4-inch diameter hole to let fresh air into the stove to make it run, when it reaches a damper stage, they have reduced that by 50%. So it's only like a 2-inch hole now letting air into the stove. And I believe they did this to meet the Montreal emission standards. And there's really not much you can do. You can put a catalytic converter in there, or a secondary burner, which this had. But other than that, the only other way to restrict your emissions going out that chimney is to basically reduce the air going into the fire so it doesn't burn quite so quickly. Now, I'm going to make a bold prediction here and say that I think you're going to see this with an awful lot of things, is that the government won't out and out tell you that you can't have a wood stove, but they will put such steep, harsh regulations on the manufacturers. Because what has happened with this company is that although they've met the emission standards, they now have a stove that essentially doesn't function as it should. That stove should have been able to heat 2,500 square feet easily, and there is just absolutely no way that you could get that kind of heat out of that stove. Like I say, unless the door was open, yes, you could get it up to temperature, but you can't walk away and leave a stove door open. If a log falls or rolls or something comes out, you've got a fire on your hands, extremely dangerous. So that's what's going on, and that's why we had to change the wood stove, and that's why we made the video. But just to switch over for a second to natural health products, they're doing exactly the same thing. They're not coming out and saying that you can't take natural health products, but they're making the regulations so strict for the manufacturers and the people who create some of these natural health products that they just cannot afford. It's no longer a viable business. Anyway, that is the path that I think that the governments and the WEF are going to take. Like I say, it won't be an all-out ban, but like I say, they'll make it just so difficult to get these things to market that these people will just go out of business and give up trying the whole process. And so what we will have to do is to start wild sourcing. And there are some excellent books out there. I have a couple on my, or will have a couple on my shelves once I get the shelves put up. But yes, you need to start reading up on how you're going to wild source some of the things that you will not be able to purchase at the local health food store. Okay, so without further ado, here is two things we've been getting up to with the containers and the container home. And yes, hopefully sometime before the end of the year, I will actually be living in this little tiny home. Okay, so new update. Here we are. These blocks are for another 20-foot container which is arriving tomorrow, so that I can move all of my wood out of the shelter logic and make some space for the tractor. We started burning some wood. As you can see, this is a pretty tricky area here. This is where the water lines and the hydro lines come into the building, and so they have to be really well insulated. And here is the outside chimney. It took quite a bit of fiddling to get that all up, and we did that in the rain, which was a real pest, I can tell you. But anyway, she's installed now and looking good. But yeah, this is the biggie. Fire is up and running. Although one of the things that we found, it's amazing the things that happen when you do the work and actually start installing things. But this place is so airtight now that there isn't enough fresh air to keep the wood stove burning. So what we're going to have to do is put a duct in through the back. We're going to go through that container behind and then down to the floor, and put a 4-inch duct in there to draw in fresh air from outside. But that long piece of pipe there, that also gives off an awful lot of heat. Anyway, very happy with that. I think that'll work quite well, especially once we get the airflow situation taken care of. I've never had an extra duct myself for a wood stove. There's always been enough airflow in the house to allow it to burn properly. But there's the hole in the back where the pipe's going to go through, and we're going to go through the side of that container, put a 90-degree and then straight through the floor, so that we'll have a fresh air directly in from the outside and no leakage into the rest of the building. I know it looks a bit of a mess, but this is closer to completion than you might think. Pipes going together, just going to line up the drain going outside down to the septic tank. And here is the water in. You can just see at the top there, the hydro cable is tucked behind the insulation. Final connection to be made here, and we have a pressure gauge there, and of course your main shut off. And this of course will all be hidden by drywall when it's finally done. And this bottom part, you'll see a vent on the ground, and that will be it. The rest will be covered by the floor. And again, this is such a small area, it will not take long for that floor to go down. As you can see, we've got some more drywall up. Then you just have to paint the floor to seal it. We'll get the ceiling drywall up. That won't take too long. We're waiting for the big move in. It's freezing up outside. It was -9 last night. But we have a respite for the next couple of days. It's going to be -1 and -2, that's not a real big deal overnight temperature. But yes, it looks a mess, but a few days of good work and we'll have this done. It won't be finished, of course, but it will be livable, and that is the main thing. But as you can see, here we are, November 20th, and it is a beautiful day. A little cool, but a beautiful day nonetheless. Okay, so here is just a little update on the container situation. Things are coming along. Move-in date is very, very shortly. I've been packing some stuff up above, and you will notice that I have a different stove, and there is a story attached to that, and I will tell you that story in the introduction. But I think it is the sign of things to come. Anyway, there's some more insulation to go up in here, and definitely need a big fan up there. Up on top there, when I was stacking those boxes, I couldn't believe how warm it was. About 20, 21 degrees up there, so a lot of heat is getting trapped up there. But the stove is heating the place up. I'm going to be looking around for a bigger stove, mainly because the firebox in this stove is so small, you can't leave it for more than 3 or 4 hours, and you've got to reload it with wood. And because there are a couple of days a week till I go out and do some shopping and so on and so forth, yeah, I need to be able to leave that for a good 6 to 8 hours before it needs reloading. But most of the flooring is in. A good portion of the drywall is up. And tiling in here is going to start tomorrow. There are the floor tiles, and that's going to be the shower in the corner. There'll be tiles running up, and this is the office in here. Completely different sound. It sounds a lot more solid, and this is what we're doing actually. Is we're there's the floor of the container there, and the water pipe coming in, and the hydro line is all in place. But this is basically a styrofoam insulation, and then we're laying OSB board on that. But there's a framework need to be put in to support the OSB. You can see around the edges there. And so that will keep the floor just that little bit warmer. Anyway, as I said, it's going to be a very rough and ready winter, and a lot of the finishing is going to take place over the winter time. The big push now is to just get moved in here before the real cold weather sets in. It's December the 5th today, and I will be going out tomorrow and purchasing a fridge, a countertop, sink, some floor paint, and my laundry machines. There, and you can see more clearly the framework that the insulation sits in to support the, let's say, the OSB, so it doesn't sink in, or it feels nice and solid. So yeah, the idea is to get in here, and then once I'm in and made my bed, every day will be a work day in here, because winter tends to not much going on outside unless it's snowing. Okay, so here's one last quick little update. Here we are in December the 17th, and the dogs have made themselves quite at home and cozy. So we are moving forward. We put some stabilizer bars in and welded those just because of the weight on the roof if we get heavy snows. I think we finally solved the heating problem, and this is an older stove. It's a Suburban, and it works just a treat. And you can see there it's burning very nicely in the combustion zone, and so the flue system does work. Yeah, it looks awful. I got to spray paint those tonight. That's it's cement just to block any little holes in that pipe. Wood's in to dry, and of course if anyone has ever lived with a wood stove or burnt wood, you know that it is just a mess. One of the things I particularly like about this wood stove is that there is an ash drawer, and the grill is quite large, so all the ashes just fall straight down into that drawer, and you can pull it out and dump it, and there's no mess. Anyway, unfortunately they don't make these kind of stoves anymore, so I am going to have to look around and see if I can scab some parts. And I did find a thermostat control, which I'm probably going to buy because there's only one left. But yeah, these just throw out the heat, and it just shows the chimney does work even with those angles in it. It would probably be better if it was directly straight up through the roof, but it's certainly got draw, and now that I've plugged all of those holes, we're rid of the little bit of smell of smoke that was leaking out of those joints. So there you go. This little gadget here is to put the drywall onto the ceiling, and that will be happening fairly shortly. The pocket door is waiting to be installed, and here we have a small semblance of civility. The water is on, the washroom works, and the shower area is in. That will be tiled. I'll tell you one thing I am very frustrated with is every company making different size bases and different size walls, and some come with sides, some come with fronts, and yeah, it's been very difficult actually to source a lot of this stuff because of each company wanting to make their product absolutely unique and non-interchangeable. And I thought that was one of the things we were going to solve in the 21st century. And internet is running, so my office is partially done. Again, we just need the drywall on the ceiling, and I say the water is in, but we're finishing off the piping so that it will fit under that floor and up through the ceiling. Here's the rest of my office packed up, waiting to be unpacked. Anyway, this will all be happening very shortly, I hope. Certainly before we go into the new year. We've been incredibly lucky with the weather. As I said, here we are, December 17th, and it is approximately 3 degrees out there, and it is raining. The snow has all but disappeared. A lot of ice around. Now the weather is going to cool off a little bit, but I'm hearing that with this El Nino off the coast of South America, we are going to get possibly one of the mildest winters since 1928. Won't that be something? Anyway, it makes living in the trailer a little bit more tolerable. That's when you get down to those -10, she's a little chilly in the morning. So I hope you enjoyed the ongoing adventure, and of course, you know, if you are a prepper and a survivalist, this is, you know, what survival is all about, and roughing it a little bit. Say living in the trailer is a little primitive right now because the drains are frozen and there's no water going in there. So I am living out of a bucket, and I shall be most happy when the shower is up and running in this place. And in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, happy holidays, happy solstice, and we'll talk to you very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.